Hello, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the SportsEthos Waiver Wire Show. You're with me, Rotomancer, Eric for short. All right, it's nice to see that there's already somebody who chimed in with a question in the comment section over here. So I'd like to get to that first before I uh, drop the names of players that I recommend as pickups in 12 team leagues, because his question, that of from Ernest, um, is has got a guy who's on my list. So 12 team head to head 9 cat redraft. IL Plus is full with Middleton, AD, and AD. With Beal and Lowry on my roster too. Drop Lowry, question mark, or Slomo or Bruce Brown. Wire options are Terrence Mann, Ijax, Gabe Vincent, and Quickly. All right. So to answer this question, yeah, I can see where you're having a problem because you have too many injured guys. Beal hasn't played in a while. It's been quite some time. So you do have that dead roster slot as of now. Uh, I don't really see the point in dropping Slomo or Bruce Brown because they are playing, they are healthy. What you need are warm bodies. Uh, as much as I would prefer not to drop Lowry, given that you have to hold on to Middleton and AD as the better, higher value players. Lowry is, it's time to trim the fat, basically. Uh, so Lowry would be my drop, is my short answer. And thankfully enough, Terrence Mann, who is somebody I was about to recommend as one of my pickups for the Waiver Wire show, is definitely somebody I would take over Lowry given your team's current situation. As good as Isaiah Jackson has been over the last couple of games, uh, in the blurbs that I've been writing and reading regarding Baser's situation, Miles Turner is not expected to be out for too much longer. He's nearing a return actually, and the moment that Miles Turner returns, expect Isaiah Jackson to, not only lose minutes but possibly even fall out of the rotation altogether, and that's just going to be a wasted move on your part. Gabe Vincent, yeah, he's technically a handcuff for Lowry, but given 12 teamers, I wouldn't, consider Vincent right now. He's just not giving enough value to warrant being picked up for a Lowry drop. On the other hand, Man, who just scored a season high, in a game for the Clippers tonight, as we speak. Let me just look it up. The thing that Man, why I'm recommending Man is because he's been trending well overall. He's been playing solid minutes. Well, tonight, or earlier this afternoon, rather, he led the Clippers in minutes with 41, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Now, with Kawhi Leonard missing a game every now and then with his, injury management, and Paul George still missing time. Now, John Wall is slated to be out for at least a couple of weeks. I'm liking Man more and more. And if you notice, even with John Wall out, they opted to just keep on running with Man. They inserted Amir Coffey in the starting lineup. Um, and Man still produced. Yeah, he had 31 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, five threes. He's been trending well, and that's exactly the reason why I would recommend Man as the pickup over here. Um, Another player who has been on my radar in deeper leagues but has now crept into probably streaming territory for 12 teamers is Seth Curry, who actually led the Nets tonight with 20. Wait. Uh, Hold on. I was just about to write about Seth Curry before I came on the show because I was blurbing earlier. 23 points, 9 of 15 shooting, three threes. The peripherals weren't that great beyond the threes, but uh, This is Seth Curry doing Seth Curry things, providing points, threes at good field goal percentage. You can hardly go wrong with that. He clearly outplayed TJ Warren, who has been the kind of buzzier name from the Nets group of making up for Durant missing by committee, uh, list. Warren was quiet with 9 points tonight. I've been leaning on Seth Curry more in my own personal leagues. I think I have picked up at least 2 to 3 shares of Curry. I'm quite satisfied with the results. He wasn't too great in the last game, quiet with something like 11 points, but as you can see, he still has it in him. And despite the loss through the Thunder, he played pretty well tonight, right? Um, Another name that I'd like to mention, and he's actually in the middle of a game right now. I picked him up in a couple of deep leagues, but you will notice uh, Trey Lyles has been a serviceable, decent filler, probably in the 12 teamer. Uh, just for perspective, Lyles over the last week, and this is like over a 3 game sample size, is inside the top 25 in 9 cat scoring. I mean, that's crazy for somebody who was averaging what, 22 and a half minutes per game. Over this span, he's been, averaging 15.7 points, 2.3 threes, 5.7 rebounds. But the crazy thing is, he's been shooting 64% from the field, 80% from the line. Beautiful roto numbers, obviously. 1.3 blocks. Obviously, the field goal is not sustainable. I don't expect that to be. Same thing goes for the threes. We're going to see that come down to maybe just over 1 per game, assuming his minutes hold up. But it looks like the rotation that Coach Mike Brown has been running out there is looking good for Lyles. And he's been getting consistent minutes. He's been playing behind both Harrison Barnes, but mainly behind Domantas Sabonis. And with Lyles giving that kind of production, you really can't go wrong. If you just want a booster for maybe some points, threes, blocks, but who won't really hurt you anywhere. All right. And all right. So going on, Gabe Vincent, yeah, since we brought up the topic, over the last 3 games, 22 points, three threes, 4 assists, 2.7 steals. Again, he's more really of a streamer. If you want, going back to the earlier question, Gabe Vincent is okay, but yeah, I would prefer Man because of the Clippers' current injury problems. Uh, but that said, Vincent is serviceable. Okay. Another name that who might not be as buzzy in 12-team leagues, but should be rostered at least for the next couple of weeks, and that's TJ McConnell. McConnell is actually the 25th best player over the last week's action with Tyrese Halliburton missing time. Um, you know, he was a fantasy darling for like a brief period, a season and change ago, but the arrival of rookie Andrew Nemhard has really, hurt McConnell in terms of minutes played. Even Benedict Mathurin, there's just too many young pieces right now on the Pacers team, and McConnell, being the older guy, has seen his minutes decline, and with it, his fantasy contributions. But lately, he's been playing just under 25 minutes per game. That's which pretty much all McConnell really needs to deliver quality production. So yeah, he's been scoring 13.3 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, which I probably must add is probably not sustainable as well. But what you're after here from McConnell, baseline quality wise, is his 8.3 assists, 2.0 steals, 58 crazy 58% shooting from the field. Now the shooting from the field and the rebounding, that's probably not sustainable, like I said. But over the course of Tyrese Halliburton's absence, McConnell really has to be rostered in 12 teams everywhere. Okay. Um, Moving on. Now I know Kentavious Caldwell Pope is somebody who's probably been streamed on and off in 12 teamers, and he's been a long time hold in deeper formats because of his ability to chip in threes and steals. The prototypical 3 and D stat kit. But over the last 3 games, last week's action, KCP is delivering 15 points, 2.7 threes, 1.7 steals, 53.3 field goal. Now that's crazy, right? That's just crazy. Yeah. Ben, all right. Okay, so we have another question. I'll just pause my pickups. Is Jalen Smith a hold? All right. I don't think so. Not in 12 teamers, for example. Breakfast cereals. If you're playing in a 12-team league, I wouldn't probably hold Jalen Smith. And that's coming from me, a guy who is really high on Jalen Smith. I'm one of the most disappointed experts out there because I tried to get as many shares of Jalen Smith as possible. I was really high on Smith along with Tyrese Halliburton coming out of the Pacers for this season. But yeah, he's been disappointing because in the end, it's going to be Aaron Neesmith who's going to be, taking those power forward minutes. It's going to take an injury for Neesmith for you to consider Jalen Smith to be a longer hold. And to be transparent, I am holding on to Smith in my 16 team leagues. He's a hold there because it's a two center league, first of all. Secondly, the wire is pretty dry nowadays. So there. All right. So I think this is a follow up question. If you're struggling in the standings in a head to head league, what is the lowest you would take in return for Zion? Lowest? Probably a combination. All right. A combination of a top 50 guy plus a filler of a top 100, 120 guy. You probably want healthier, warmer bodies. I assume, and this is just an educated guess, that you're currently struggling in the head-to-head standing in your head-to-head league because of injuries. Zion being probably included in that list. I don't think you're just going to be doing terribly if he was the only player missing on your team. That said, you probably want to break him down into smaller, albeit less productive pieces, but more volume, more games, more stats right now. So if you're really desperate, you can do it. A breakdown for something like that top 50 guy. Again, the best way, and this is from personal experience where I've had the most success when we're talking about trades here, is when I'm offloading an injured guy, right? If I'm offloading an injured guy, it's really hard to offload him as is by himself. I tend to like to package him in, let's say, a 2 for 2. All right. I would package him with a guy that I probably would drop. And I'm acquiring a kicker on the other end who is superior to the average waiver wire pickup. That way, I save on a move. I improve my overall roster strength. That combined, these guys would probably merit me close to a healthy Zion, but obviously not because that's not his going rate. You have to be very cognizant of what the market's going rate is for an injured guy because it'll be that acquiring manager who will be absorbing the new risk that his team will suffer some losses in the meantime while being the one waiting for Zion's return. So that's my suggestion. Do a 2 for 2 situation and make sure that the kicker, the key there is, so you're losing out on the Zion for the top 50, 55 guy, sure. But make sure you're really winning out on the kicker side of the equation, that you're just recovering a streaming slot for somebody who has better longer term value for that matter. There's somebody who you odds are will not be throwing to the waiver wire anytime soon, assuming he's not injured. All right. So I hope I was able to uh, give some insight there, because I obviously cannot just throw out random names. Ask for this guy, so and so and so. There's so many different league compositions, different managers, mindsets, team builds. Too many factors to really consider to just answer that in a vacuum. But I'm just giving you an umbrella strategy and a framework in terms of blanket value with which to assess the situation. All right. Uh, all right. Okay. So next question. Rest of season outlook for Sohan. Spurs seem certain to sell off at the trade deadline, and Sohan has already been starting for the past 3 weeks. All right. Uh, Here we go. I think that Sohan will be better. Okay, Brian, let's work under some shared assumptions here. First of all, let's assume that who the Spurs are offloading, and that would probably be Jakob Portal. And if he's one of the people, I mean, probably the biggest name that they can offload, and he's gone. What we're going to see here is probably Zach Collins start, maybe, depending on how healthy he really is. He's been, meh on and off, but he's had a few good games here and there. But what's going to happen with Sohan is I think that Pops is going to encourage him to crash the boards more. He's going to be that rebounding utility, this Dennis Rodman slash Draymond Green kind of do the dirty work, defender kind of guy, and hope he grows into a much more robust role with as his skills improve in the other areas. You're right. He is a pretty talented defender, and he can defend multiple positions. Maybe not necessarily 1 through 5, but he is pretty versatile in that sense. Uh, he's worth a speculative hold right now. And if you're banking on that assumption regarding the Spurs moves, I think he's going to be okay. Will he be 12 team viable? Probably on a fringe level, maybe. It all really depends on how his game develops, right? All right. So, yeah, I think he's obviously a definite hold in deeper formats. I have only one share of Sohan. I picked him up uh, at some point during the time that he kind of struggled and was dropped by another manager. I have since not let go of him ba- based on that similar assumption that you currently have. So I think that he's, yeah, positive outlook. And if you have the luxury to hold on to him in your league, I would recommend you do so. All right. So I hope that answered your question, Brian. Moving on back to breakfast cereals, who has another follow up. All right, I packaged my Zion, DeJounte Murray, and KPJ for Siakam, Shingun, and Trent, and got rejected. But that's okay. I understand. Again, that's overly complicated because it's 3 for 3. I think that your offer was pretty fair. Now, again, in this case, not everyone has the same level of risk appetite. There are some people, for example, there is no one I'm willing to give you for Zion Williamson right now in any of my 16 team leagues, mainly because most of them don't have IL or IL plus spots. Meaning Zion Williamson is going to be a dead spot on my roster. So yeah, I don't want Zion. I'm not going to give you. I wouldn't give you my Royce O'Neal, for example, for your Zion. Um, no, fine. I probably would give you Royce O'Neal, but you get my point. So I would suggest simplifying it. You obviously will not be able to get Siakam, Shingun, and Trent, but maybe you could get Shingun and Trent. Your odds are not going to get Siakam because Siakam healthy is still better than Zion healthy, as far as I'm concerned, rest of season outlook wise. Um, And I think that might have been the deal breaker on his side. So if you're gonna lower the price tag, Zion plus maybe uh, KPJ, but KPJ's hurt. So maybe somebody else. So Zion plus one for Shingun plus Trent. That's something doable. All right. We let you keep DeJounte, and that's a good thing, right? So you might want to try that, or try other managers. Like I said, it might just also be a matter of risk tolerance on the part of that manager you approached. Just because, okay, uh, if you really want to move someone, it's really all a matter of price, like you said, like I said. So what that means is you are a seller and you really need to go for volume. You really need to generate leads, reach out, communicate. If your league happens to have a group chat on Facebook or some other chatting platform or whatever, feel free to reach out. Message. You have to be proactive. You just can't simply put Zion Williamson on the block in your Yahoo, ESPN, or whatever Fantrax platform and expect people to approach you. You have to approach them and be more proactive with your offers. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you will present an offer that they just didn't think about themselves, and it works for both teams. You're clearly struggling because of injuries, and I think you know um, that's how I would regard the situation. Okay. Um, all right. So, okay. Looks like we got question after question, which I do appreciate, by the way. Thank you for throwing those out. I'm happy to help. Claxton or Gobert ROS? This is an interesting one. And I have, okay, just for perspective here, I have zero Claxton shares, which I already regret. And wish I could have remedied earlier. Okay, but I have one Gobert share, and Gobert has been truly disappointing overall. In one league, I saw a guy in a multi-player package or trade offload his Gobert and later on acquire Nick Claxton. Okay, I think that I would lean on Claxton uh, at some point. Okay, I mean, look at it now. Gobert is not doing great, and this is without Carl Anthony Towns. He's been more or less pretty much disappointing ever since he landed with the Wolves. The loss of Cat, you know, gave him the opportunity to shine on a game to game basis every so often. But simply put, Gobert has not been consistent. On the other hand, Claxton is giving you the kind of field goal impact you're looking for. Definitely the blocks you're looking for that Gobert isn't. Probably, I would still say that Gobert is the superior rebounder and could finish the season with a higher per game average in rebounds. But again, that's just one stat. If you're looking for the blocks, the field goal, uh, I'd lean on Claxton because it's just going to get only worse for Gobert the moment that Towns, gets healthy and back. Okay. So, okay, next question. If you have Jokic or LaMelo who have 2 game playoff weeks, would you look to move them before the deadline or hold? Okay, that's a great question. I actually have 2 Jokic shares. I am not looking to move him um, because at the end of the day, whatever package I probably will get in return, even if I'm getting 2 guys with 4 game weeks for Jokic plus whatever I'm throwing away, might not be as good as what Jokic is going to provide me anyway overall. And again, what you have to consider in line with this question that you gave me just now is the timing. How soon do you have to make this trade? The point is, Jokic is so good, Lamelo is so good that they're gonna help you get to the playoffs. Unless you're already um, guaranteed seeding right now, which I cannot picture in my head to be mathematically possible. You might need them, you know, one or the other, or you know, to get you to the playoffs. Um, so no, I'm not trading. I'm holding. What I would do and what I do uh, is a look at the guys who are outside the top 25. Uh, those are the guys who I shuffle around. Those are the guys who I try to move, either through trades or through trades first and foremost. And I'm looking to swap them for guys with a better schedule. But again, if you think about it, and you obviously are thinking about fantasy playoff schedules, you might have to transact with teams that aren't in the running and who are trying to catch up. So I would do these kinds of transactions with those teams in mind as primary recipients of those players. And that would be the move because they're not currently thinking about what you call this playoff schedules. They're trying to get into the playoffs and they're going to be focused more on pre-playoff schedules. Like we're talking about 2 to 3 weeks before the cutoff for your playoffs. They're going to be looking for good schedules then. Excuse me. So that's the. I hope I answered your question, and I'm sharing straight from my own playbook as far as what I plan to do. Now, for example, I am inclined to when he's back and playing, offload DeMar DeRozan. I was not thinking about moving him initially, but that 2 game week that the Bulls have, at least in my league's schedule, is kind of bothering me. So I might flip him. Obviously not now because he's injured, but when he plays again, and he will come back soon probably, and play well again. That's the time I'm going to move him, and slowly tweak my team to address my needs and shift slash pivot to a more solid 5-4 focused build, team build. And that's exactly what you want anyway when you reach the playoffs. You want to guarantee, quote unquote, as guaranteed as possible to win 5 out of the 9 categories, or as many categories as possible if you happen to be playing um, in 8 cat head to head. All right. So yeah, that's kind of the plan right now. Okay. All questions have been answered so far. Uh, let's carry on with the rest of the waiver wire show. Uh, uh-huh. Okay. Now, let's dig in and look at the Suns. Uh, for a while, for a hot minute there, Dwayne Washington was obviously a pickup for a while, but he has since been, literally terrible because he just fell out. Um, on that note, Damian Lee has been playing um, far better, being an impact guy and delivering threes, free throw, which is normally not in his wheelhouse of fantasy contributions. He's okay. Chris Paul is not going to be back. He's already been ruled out for Monday. And it's really a struggle to find who's going to be producing game to game out of the Suns lineup. But so far, I would consider Damian Lee as somebody to stream in the short term. All right. Uh, yeah, there. We've already touched on Isaiah Jackson and my thoughts on Isaiah Jackson. As much as I would prefer to hold Jackson, eh, I considered him as a medium term stream, as in multiple games, maybe a week plus, and change, but I'm not holding my breath. He's somebody you should be prepared to cut because he will drop off once Miles Turner returns from his injury. I think it's just back spasms. That can take a while, but it's not really considered a multi-week kind of injury, more of a handful of game kind of injury. So yeah, Turner will be back soon. Um, One guy who's fallen out, he's not so much a 12 team suggestion as he is a 14 to 16 team kind of guy. Brandon Clark recently returned from his injury. He played okay, fine. He played fewer than 20 minutes in his return game, but scored 11 points. Had 3 steals, though, and had perfect shooting from the field, which was great. I think that Clark really remains an underrated contributor in fantasy, especially when it comes to field goal. Yes, he's not a high volume scorer, but if his field goal is high enough, they add up. I mean, the same principle of why I recommended Trey Lyles earlier. He's been shooting really well from the field. And if you have, let's say, Trey Lyles, then you add Brandon Clark, they help offset your, D'Angelo Russells, for example. That's a bad example because he's really a poor uh, shooter from the field. But if you're just trying to edge out your weekly opponent by a few percentage points here and there, um, do not underestimate the impact Clark can make on your team. Yes, JJJ is healthy, and yes, Santi Aldama has been playing more minutes. That could change. Clark only played 19 minutes and change because it was his first game back after some time off with his injury. But again, Clark is somebody people should have their eyes on. All right. Uh, okay. I was able to discuss Terrence Mann. Um, Now, he's probably not as buzzy a name, but I really think that Jalen Williams is solid. Uh, I don't think he's necessarily crept up into the radars of 12 team leagues, or at least all of them, considering his roster percentage on Yahoo. But I really like him. Yes, he sucked tonight, and yes, he probably will be dropped in very shallow leagues because of that performance. But season long outlook is still pretty bullish on my part for the guy. I don't think anything is gonna change drastically in terms of his role, his opportunities, and the kids got skills. That's for sure. Since we're dipping into a little bit of discussion into deeper leagues, uh, Alex Caruso, uh, top 75 guy last week, mainly because of his 2 steals over the last 4 games. He should be rostered if you need steals, obviously. But in deeper formats, I would consider him a hold. He's somebody I would pick up and hold if I had the opportunity to do so. Um, but it's tough because in a league, for example, where I have 2 center needs and one center need is currently being filled by the erratic and unreliable Jalen Smith, I had to, press the panic button for a while and pick up guys like Santi Aldama and Trey Lyles. That's how Trey Lyles uh, popped up on my radar when I started to do some digging on his recent games and his impact. Um, but he really came into uh, prominence in my mind after the 20-point, 7 rebound game. But even prior to that, he's been scoring in double digits pretty reasonably. Again, he's really more of a roto guy, but yeah, you cannot discount his ability to score efficiently. Uh, yeah, I don't know if it needs to be said, but I assume that Victor Oladipo is rostered pretty much everywhere, but on the off chance you're in some league where Depot is not rostered yet, please go ahead and um, pick him up. All right. Uh, Tobias Harris is returning. Um, so some people would ask, especially those who have issues with roster slots and whatnot, about De'Anthony Melton. As the Sixers are getting healthier, we have Embiid back, Harris is returning. Uh, yeah, we might see a missed game here and there from James Harden, but my point is, uh, trust Melton. He's going to give you a game here and there where he's going to score poorly, and he's also going to shoot poorly from the field. But you never know. It's in tiers, really. If you consider holding Melton um, in a 12-team league, and Melton, who has been a top 100 guy over the last week, is somebody you would hold on to. And if you even ignore the 39% shooting from the field, he's still delivering threes, steals, and pretty much, just one turnover a game, which is pretty solid if you think about it. There's a second tier of guys that you hold regardless. Uh, Somebody I'd mention, despite, the odd so-so game or poor game here and there, is Tyus Jones, who I would prefer to have owned, or sorry, rostered in as many of my deep leagues as possible. Yes, John Moran is playing a lot of minutes, and yes, Tyus only explodes when Morant sits out. But for goodness sake, you just really have to just look at those games that Jones, the stat lines that Jones is able to put up when Morant misses time. It's just crazy good that in the end he averages out to somebody who uh, the opportunity cost on you not sitting on Tyus Jones in deeper leagues is just not worth it, because his those kinds of explosive games are so swingy in terms of uh, tipping the odds in your favor for a weekly matchup. I cannot underscore enough how much value Jones of a value Jones is. He was like dropped recently in a 14 team league. Yeah, so we're talking about the threshold between 12 and 16. 14 is not as popular account, at least from my experience and in the leagues I play for some reason. But uh, yeah, I will be looking to grab uh, Tyus Jones in that scenario. All right. Okay. Uh, Lastly, we're talking about Emmanuel quickly, who hasn't been, uh, to, be- to be fair, on my radar as of late, which normally, because I refrain from blurbing Knicks games, which, because, Knicks, but I should more because I missed out on quickly in some spots and in some situations. I was able to pick up Quentin Grimes in the past, but lately it appears that Quickly has been playing much better than him. Over the last week, he's been a top 110 guy. I mean, 17 points per game, two threes. Nothing really on defense. He's like a points and threes guy. But at the very least, over the course of a 4 game sample size, he's been shooting 51% from the field, which is crazy for a 3-point shooting, undersized guard. Uh, yeah. So um, Joe Harris had a brief, again, as I'm scrolling through my notes here, we're slowly digging deeper and deeper um, into the dregs of wires. Joe Harris probably can be streamed regularly. Uh, He's reliable for his threes. And now that he's been starting for Kevin Durant, he's been okay. Tonight, he was so so. Again, like most of the reserves on the Nets team, who are pretty much erratic, and I'm going to throw out Harris, TJ Warren, Seth Curry, etc., etc. They can't be really relied on a lot, but out of those names, I prefer Seth Curry the most. He fits most of my team builds the best, and based on those needs, he is providing the value I'm looking for more consistently. Oops, sorry, hit my mic. All right. Okay. So as we wind down, uh, somebody that you might be wondering about, or at least thinking about, is Chris Boucher, the classic forever headache in fantasy. Uh, he can be good sometimes, but he can be pretty much bad or mediocre most of the time. And that's been his problem this season, more so now that the Raptors have a rookie in Christian Coloco, even tinkered with Juancho Hernan Gomez as a starter. It's not in the cards for Boucher to uh, become a starter or log uh, heavier minutes in the near future. But okay, and this is where you might consider a Boucher hold or a Boucher stash um, at the deadline, or sorry, before the deadline. Because if you look at how the Raptors are playing lately, they're not in the playoff picture. They're not even in play in contention at the moment. They're going to have to turn things around drastically and play much better. I mean, Fred Van Vliet had like a 3 point dud recently, and that coincided in with a bad performance by Gary Trent. So what I'm saying here is the Raptors will be at a crossroads situation, and they might be sellers um at the trade deadline. Now, Boucher is not going to be one of the bigger ticket items that they have to offer other teams. Obviously, other teams will be looking into guys like Siakam, maybe even Van Vliet, more Van Vliet actually, even Gary Trent. Probably, if I was going to do a rebuild on the Raptors, I'd say everyone, pretty much everyone except Scotty Barnes is probably going to be on the table, but you won't see teams lining up to grab Chris Boucher from the Raptors in the same vein that he's not, you don't see people lining up to burn their waivers for Boucher in a lot of fantasy leagues. That said, Boucher is somebody who could really benefit from the absence of, let's say, even an OG Ananobi or Pascal Siakam. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps it up for the show this week. I appreciate everyone who dropped by, asked their questions. Thank you very much. Please don't forget to follow me on Twitter. That's me at Rotomancer. You can ask me questions there when the show is not here. And again, it would be, if you found the show even remotely interesting, please like, subscribe, hit that bell button. You know the drill. And I will be seeing you again next week. Same time, most likely. Still Sunday. We're looking for uh, somebody to join me from the Sports Ethos crew. It seems that Ethan might not be able to join us because he cannot commit to a time. You know, day job, life stuff. He's been pretty busy. No worries. I understand that. But I'd like to thank you guys for coming along and keeping me company because, it's always just boring to talk about uh, to myself, to talk about fantasy basketball to myself while looking at myself on the screen. So the questions do help. It helps keep things interesting, and at least I get to provide insight on some concerns you might have regarding players, your fantasy teams, and I'm always happy to answer these questions anytime, whether it's on the show or on Twitter. If you're a sports ethos premium subscriber, feel free to add me anytime on the Discord channel for premium subs if you want a specific question answered by me. I know I haven't been too active lately, but I plan to do so um, maybe in the succeeding weeks. It's just that I've been doing a lot of blurb shifts as editor here at Ethos. I've been covering a lot of blurb shifts, editing, so I really haven't had much extra time. All right, that and some real life stuff that I've been doing on the side as well. That's it. Thank you very much. See you guys next week, and good luck with your teams matchups for week 14. Bye bye.